Tonight you're going to sleep not in a soft bed in a quiet room, but on a swaying ship in the middle of an ocean, surrounded by strangers, steam, and the suspicious scent of something being overboiled. But don't worry. It's better than it sounds. Much better. Because while this voyage isn't first class and your pillow has the density of a rolled-up shirt, there's something deeply comforting about it all. You're not just a passenger on this ship. You're a part of a quiet miracle that floats across saltwater and possibility. And tonight, we're going to walk through that miracle. One meal, one story, and one cup of tea at a time. Dim your lights, settle your breathing, and let's take a slow step back in time. To a place where stew rules the world, and the cutlery is always slightly bent. You step into the hallway, and immediately wonder if you're lost. The air smells faintly of soap and something vaguely vegetable. Maybe turnip, maybe optimism. It's not unpleasant, just specific. You follow the curve of the corridor, your hand grazing the wall as you walk. It's cool to the touch, painted the kind of white that says, "We tried," and lit by electric bulbs that buzz like they're annoyed to still be working. This is Deck G. And yes, that G stands for good luck finding daylight. You're 2 levels below where anyone with lace gloves and matching luggage spends their time, but down here, things are practical. There are pipes, rivets, and the occasional mystery sound that could be water, could be ghosts. But you don't mind, because down here you have something better than mahogany panels or violin music. You have access to the dining room, and it's almost time. Your shoes, scuffed but loyal, echo softly on the metal grates as you join the slow procession of passengers heading toward the dining saloon. It's not called a restaurant here. That would be too fancy. Saloon feels right. A little rustic, a little uncertain, like it could contain soup or a fistfight depending on the day. You reach the entrance and pause. Not because you're unsure, but because someone else in front of you has stopped to marvel at the door. It's painted with a fresh coat of something off-white and solid, and it swings inward with a creak that feels like it's rehearsed this moment. Inside, the room stretches farther than you expected. Long tables, all bolted to the floor like they're expecting a storm, run the length of the space. Benches worn smooth by people far hungrier than you flank each one. And the light. It's warm, yellowish, humming softly. Electric. Which still feels like a kind of magic. You choose a spot near the middle, close enough to see the stewards when they start moving, far enough not to be in the splash zone if the stew sloshes. The bench is firm, unyielding, and exactly what you expected. Around you, people settle in. A young woman with 3 kids in the eyes of someone who hasn't slept in a week. An older man with a cane carved from something that used to be alive. 2 boys who keep elbowing each other in the ribs and pretending they didn't. Everyone's got a story. None of them are told out loud. A steward passes by, not a butler, not a waiter. A man with sleeves rolled up and a dish towel over one shoulder. He glances at the table like he's measuring something, then disappears through a swinging door. You hear the clatter of metal, the thud of trays, and the soft curse of someone who probably dropped a ladle. Then, the first dish arrives. A bowl, deep, wide, slightly chipped, lands in front of you with a decisive thunk. It's filled with something that could generously be called soup. Beige, thick, steaming. It smells like every root vegetable you've ever met and one you haven't. You stare at it. It stares back. You pick up your spoon, sturdy, slightly bent, definitely not yours originally, and dip it in. The soup clings to it like it's afraid of heights. First bite, hot, very hot. Somewhere between nourishing and a mild tongue injury, but it's good, in that this might not kill me kind of way. You've had worse, much worse. Bread follows, dense, functional, the color of old parchment and about as flexible. You tear off a piece and use it to scoop up what might be potato or might be extremely optimistic turnip. Either way, it does the job. Around you, the room fills with the quiet sounds of 120 people eating while pretending not to notice each other. No one speaks above a whisper. The language of this space is chewing, the occasional sigh and the universal gesture of passing the salt. If there is any. Today there isn't. You imagine someone traded it for a wool blanket or a second pair of socks. The man across from you eats like it's a competition. Efficient. No wasted motion. Spoon, chew, swallow, repeat. You respect it. You match his rhythm. Not out of rivalry, but survival. You can feel the shift behind you. The next group already lining up, the stewards moving faster. Trays stacking like a game no one wins. There's no dessert. There's barely variety. But somehow, when the last of the soup is gone, and the bread has been reduced to a smear of crumbs, you lean back slightly and think, I'm all right. Full enough to stand. Warm enough to think straight. The steward returns with a tin mug. It's filled with tea so strong it could probably dissolve iron. You sip. It tastes like determination. Slightly bitter, maybe oversteeped but bracing. You feel like you could walk up a mountain now, as long as the mountain was indoors and didn't require stairs. Someone at the end of the table cracks a joke. Something about the stew having a face. Laughter bubbles up, surprised and short-lived. A moment of human static. Then, just as quickly, silence again. Not uncomfortable, respectful. When it's time to leave, you don't linger. No one does. You stand, stack your bowl with the practiced care of someone who's done this before, and step aside for the next wave. The bench is still warm when they sit. You step out into the hallway again, the echo of spoons and steam trailing behind you like a scent. And you think maybe this isn't luxury, but it's something better. It's solid. It's yours. And it's enough. You wake to the sound of movement, not loud, not sudden, but the soft rustle of blankets, the metallic creak of a bunk above yours shifting, and the unmistakable whimper of a child who has not yet made peace with mornings. There's no clock in your room, but the ship speaks its own language. You've learned that the flickering yellow light seeping under the door means morning, and the hollow echo of footsteps in the hallway means breakfast is being prepared, or at least warmed. You stretch beneath your thin wool blanket, the fabric scratchy but familiar now, and press your palm against the cold metal frame of the bunk. Your body still feels the sea. Not so much a sway as a slow pull from underneath, like something is gently reminding you that you're not on land anymore. You sit up, blink a few times, and remember to breathe through your nose. The air smells better than you expected. It's not fresh exactly, but it's not foul either. A hint of steam, maybe some soap, and something that might be porridge. You don't dress. There's nothing new to put on. You smooth your shirt, shake yesterday's creases out of your trousers, and splash water on your face from a basin that's seen better decades. It's cold, but it wakes you. You run a hand through your hair, glance at your reflection in a square of metal nailed to the wall, calling it a mirror would be generous, and then step out into the corridor, joining the flow of passengers with the same goal: food that's warm, filling, and preferably chewable. You make your way down the hall, passing closed doors and open ones, where voices and accents you don't recognize hum like low music. Some families travel in groups herding sleepy children who blink wide-eyed at everything. Others, like you, travel alone. The rhythm of footsteps, your only companion. But there's comfort in the crowd. Even if you don't speak, you're part of something moving toward sustenance together. The dining saloon is quieter in the morning. Not silent, just slower. The electric lights hum overhead, casting soft shadows on tiled floors and whitewashed walls that have grown somehow more familiar overnight. You find a seat, the same table maybe, or close enough, and nod to the person beside you. No one smiles too brightly in the morning here, but there are nods, silent acknowledgments. You made it through another night. A steward appears, almost invisibly, and begins placing bowls in front of passengers. Yours lands with the same gentle authority as before. Enamel, worn, reliable, filled with something pale and thick. Porridge. Not sweet, not spiced, just porridge. It has the color of damp paper and the texture of yesterday's glue, but it's warm and that's what matters. Beside the bowl, a slice of bread, slightly fresher than last night's, still determined to be useful. You pick it up and tear it without ceremony, dipping the edge into the porridge and taking a bite. It tastes like routine, like a habit. like a system designed not to impress, but to sustain. Across the table, a girl with braids stirs her porridge with a focus that suggests she's thinking about something far beyond the dining room. Maybe the country she left. Maybe the one she's heading to. Maybe just the hope that today, the porridge will have a flavor. Spoiler, it doesn't. But she eats anyway, and so do you. A tin mug arrives. Tea again, strong, darker than you remember, and still without sugar. You sip it slowly, letting the bitterness coat your tongue and shake the sleep from your bones. It pairs well with the bread, which now feels like an old friend, slightly stale, sometimes tough, but always there when you need it. Some tables are lucky. You hear the distinct pop of a marmalade jar being opened, followed by quiet gasps of excitement and the frantic rustle of spoons scraping glass. It's citrusy, sharp, and rationed like gold. Your table doesn't get one, but you don't mind. Watching others guard their tiny treasure like it's a sacred relic is entertaining in its own right. And besides, your porridge is edible. Probably. The mood in the room remains subdued. Breakfast here isn't social, it's survival. A necessary ceremony performed in silence or with murmurs too low to decode. A few people nod in rhythm as they chew, eyes glazed with early morning thoughts. One man appears to be praying, though it might just be that he's begging his bread not to break his tooth. A steward refills mugs, not because anyone asked, but because that's how the system works. Quiet efficiency, no menus, no options, just tea. Always tea. You finish your porridge and find yourself strangely grateful. It's not delicious, but it fills the space inside you that was empty an hour ago. It says, you'll make it to lunch. And that's all you really want right now. The cleanup is swift. You pass your bowl forward without needing to be asked. Plates clatter gently into stacked trays. Spoons are wiped clean. A napkin would be a luxury. Your sleeve does the job just fine. You glance down the table one last time before standing, watching as new passengers drift in, eyes hopeful, stomachs louder than their words. Back in the hallway, the ship hums around you like a giant, slow-breathing beast. Pipes hiss, metal ticks. Somewhere in the distance you think you hear a door slam. But maybe it's just your imagination. Your boots echo as you walk, the soles slapping against the corridor in time with your thoughts. You pass a young man standing outside his cabin, staring at a folded piece of paper. A letter from home, perhaps, or a list of things to do once he arrives. He folds it again and tucks it into his jacket like it's a secret. You don't ask. You keep walking. Eventually, you find yourself outside on a narrow deck, the kind not designed for strolling but for catching a breath of fresh air that tastes like salt and coal smoke. You lean against the railing, the metal cold against your forearms, and look out at the endless horizon. Gray waves rise and fall with a rhythm that feels ancient, like the sea itself is just continuing a thought it started long before you were born. You take another sip of tea, the last in your mug, now lukewarm and comforting in a different way. Your thoughts drift, to the people at your table, to the way the steward moves like a ghost with a tray, to the marmalade jar you didn't get but still kind of enjoyed. There's something about this ship this morning, this porridge that isn't fancy, or memorable, or even particularly good. But it's something solid, something that holds, and when your stomach is full, your hands are warm, and the wind on your face smells like forward motion, you start to believe that maybe, just maybe, this journey will be all right. You turn from the railing and head back inside, where the warmth of the ship welcomes you again like an old coat. The day stretches ahead, full of quiet rituals, boiled vegetables, and the soft murmur of languages you don't speak, all woven into the rhythm of a voyage you'll never quite forget. You've walked the length of the corridor 3 times now, not because you have somewhere to be, but because it feels good to move. The ship sways underfoot like a lullaby set to motion, and every step you take vibrates just slightly with the energy of hundreds of other passengers doing the same. You pass a man playing cards with no one, just shuffling, laying them out in rows, then gathering them again with the precision of someone trying to keep his hands busy while his mind runs marathons. You nod at him. He doesn't look up, doesn't have to. That's the language here on small gestures, soft sounds, and shared space. The hours between meals pass in a haze. There's no clock to count them, no bell to mark their movement. Time becomes something else entirely on board. A thing you feel more than you measure. A stomach rumble, a change in the light, the muffled sound of trays starting to clatter again in the dining saloon. That's your signal. You begin to drift back toward the source of warmth and boiled calories. You're not alone. A dozen other passengers, eyes forward, feet steady, follow the same scent trail, lunch. Except no one calls it that. Not here. Technically, it's dinner, because the people who built this world didn't believe in simple meal names. They liked their terminology old-fashioned and mildly confusing. So you, stomach fluttering with low-key anticipation, are heading to dinner, which is actually lunch, and will be followed by tea, which isn't tea, and later supper, which you think might just be a repeat of dinner, but smaller. You've stopped asking. You just go with it. You arrive at the saloon and recognize the change immediately. The morning hush has lifted. The space hums louder now. More voices, more movement, more life. People talk, not loudly, but enough to remind you they're here. There's a rhythm to the noise, a kind of pre-meal music composed of shuffling feet, squeaky benches, and the occasional burst of laughter from someone remembering something funny that doesn't need to be explained. You slide into a bench, this time near the end. A new spot, a new view. The wall in front of you is still white, still slightly scuffed, but more familiar now. Less blank, more lived in. The steward arrives faster today, his pace more focused, like the kitchen has found its rhythm. In his hands, a tray of bowls, steam rising in lazy curls like it's still stretching. He places one in front of you, then the others, then disappears. You look down and meet the eyes of today's main course. Stew. Again. You're not surprised. In fact, you've come to expect it. A kind of thick, bubbling constant in a world of shifting expectations. This version is darker than yesterday's. Redder somehow. With chunks of something that might be meat or might be extremely confident vegetable. You don't ask. You stir. You eat. First bite. Hot, savory, unidentifiable. There's salt. Maybe onion. A texture that hints at turnip or aggressively overcooked carrot. It clings to the spoon, refuses to drip. You take another bite. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just lunch. Solid. Dependable. Filling. Beside the stew, bread again. This time softer. You tear it open and discover steam inside. A small miracle. It's the kind of bread that could make you believe in the power of plain things. You dip it into the stew, press it into the gravy, and eat it slowly. Around you, the room has fallen into its eating rhythm. Heads down, spoons steady, elbows tucked. It's like a synchronized dance choreographed by hunger and repetition. A boy at your table, maybe 10, maybe 12, hard to tell under the layer of soot and confidence, is trying to eat and talk at the same time. He describes something he saw on deck this morning. A bird, maybe. Or a fish pretending to fly. His sister, maybe, listens with half an ear, more focused on her stew than the laws of nature. Their mother chews silently, eyes scanning the room like she's counting something. Spoons, exits, you don't know. You just eat. Midway through the meal, a small debate breaks out 3 seats down. 2 men, one with a thick beard and a thicker accent, the other with fingers stained from coal or ink or both, are arguing over whether the stew tastes better today or worse. The argument is good-natured, like a sport, like something familiar and safe. No one raises their voice. No one cares enough to be angry. You find yourself smiling into your spoon. It's the kind of pointless argument that reminds you of home, or at least, of people trying to feel at home. Your tea arrives late this time, still in a tin mug, still strong enough to require courage. You sip. It bites back just a little. You like it, not because it's delicious, it's not, but because it's the same every time. No surprises, just warmth and wakefulness in liquid form. And then the oddest thing happens. Someone nearby, a man in a patched coat with eyes like he's seen 3 lifetimes, begins humming. Just a tune. Low, wordless, and slightly off-key. No one stops him. No one shushes. He hums, and others listen. One woman closes her eyes, another taps her spoon gently against the table in time. It lasts maybe a minute, maybe 2. Then it fades, like steam rising and vanishing into the hum of the saloon. You finish your meal, not rushed, but not lingering either. The stewards are already circling like patient birds, eyes scanning for empty bowls and crumpled napkins that never existed. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. You've stopped pretending otherwise. And stand. You step aside as someone else slides into your seat, already gripping their spoon like it's a lifeline. It probably is. Back in the hallway, you lean against the cool wall and let the sounds wash over you. Voices in a dozen languages. The creak of floorboards that shouldn't creak. Somewhere, a distant cough. You feel full, not stuffed, not sleepy, just full. The good kind. The kind that says, "You're okay, you'll make it to supper." You take the long way back to your bunk, passing cabins with open doors where people sit on the floor, sharing what looks like bread and stories. No one looks up. No one has to. You walk quietly, not wanting to disturb the moment. You pause near a stairwell, look up at the iron railings that curl toward brighter decks you probably won't visit. You don't mind. Down here, things make sense. Meals come when they're supposed to. Tea is always hot. And stew, well, stew is inevitable. You climb into your bunk, not to sleep, just to rest. The blanket wraps around you like a familiar sigh. You hear footsteps overhead, a laugh, a door swinging shut. The ship continues forward, steady and slow, carrying you toward a place you've never seen with a routine that's slowly becoming yours. You close your eyes, not to dream, but to hold on to the feeling of something simple, something shared, something good enough. You wake up not because someone calls your name, not because there's a bell or a whistle, but because something about the ship tells you it's time again. The way the floor feels under your feet has shifted. The soft creaks above your bunk carry new urgency. Somewhere down the corridor you hear someone say, "They're starting." That's all it takes. You swing your legs out of bed, boots thudding softly on the wooden floor, and rub your eyes with the back of your hand, like it's a ritual you've always known. You pull on your coat, the one that smells faintly of salt and other people's smoke, and step out into the corridor once more. The air here is different now, warmer, heavier, as if the ship itself has been exhaling slowly for hours and is only now beginning to breathe again. You follow the sound of footsteps, always the same pattern, shuffle, tap, echo, heading in the direction that leads to something called tea, even though deep down, you know it isn't about tea at all. The dining saloon isn't full, not like before. It's quieter now, less urgent. The chaos has softened into something closer to calm. The stewards aren't moving as fast. There's no stew to wrangle this time. No bubbling pot threatening to overflow. Instead, the air is filled with the soft clink of plates, the gentle scrape of knives on bread, and the kind of relaxed silence that only comes when everyone already knows what to expect. You find a seat next to an older woman who doesn't look up as you arrive. Her hands are wrapped around a mug like she's using it to keep her fingers from disappearing. She doesn't speak, just nods slightly, eyes fixed on something far away. Or maybe just the memory of a place where tea meant biscuits and company. You settle in beside her and look down at your own plate. What greets you is modest, understated, let's say honest. Thin slices of cold meat, arranged with the kind of effort that says someone tried but not too hard. Next to them, a wedge of cheese, pale, a little crumbly, the flavor of damp fabric with a hint of salt. Bread again, of course. Always bread. It stares at you like an old roommate you've run out of small talk with. You nod back. You understand each other by now. You tear off a chunk of the bread, place the meat on it, whatever kind it is, no one asks, and add the cheese like it's a luxury topping. You take a bite. It's fine. Not bad. Not good. just there. You chew slowly, grateful for the feeling of having something solid in your mouth, even if it's more about the texture than the taste. A steward places a mug beside your plate. Tin, naturally, sturdy, heavy. Inside, more tea, the same blend of bitterness and bravery as always. You sip. It warms your throat, settles somewhere in your chest, and reminds you gently that while supper isn't coming yet, it's not too far off. Tea, it seems, is not about flavor, it's about reassurance. Around you, others eat with similar focus. No one's savoring anything, but no one's complaining either. A man a few seats away is telling a story in a language you don't know, but his hands do half the talking, waving, pinching, sketching shapes in the air. The boy across from you watches with a smile, bread forgotten in his hand. The woman beside you finally looks up, just long enough to say, "He does that every day," before returning to her tea. Her voice is rough, warm, like gravel steeped in honey. You finish your plate slowly. There's no rush. This isn't a meal that demands urgency. It's soft, deliberate, almost sleepy. A transition from day to evening, from activity to reflection. You sip more tea, hold the mug between your palms, and watch as the light in the saloon begins to shift. Not dimmed, not exactly, but softened. A subtle cue that the sun above deck is starting to lean westward, even if you can't see it from here. The conversation stays low, the movement slower. You get the sense that people aren't just eating. They're digesting everything. Food, thoughts, the slow creaking truth that they are in between worlds right now. Not where they were, not yet where they're going. Suspended, floating, breathing in someone else's steel and someone else's hope. When the stewards return, they don't hurry, they move like librarians. Quiet, efficient. You slide your mug forward. One nod, one thank you, no fanfare. You stand and stretch, your back clicking softly, and step into the hallway again, where the ship continues humming its endless mechanical lullaby. You don't head back to your bunk right away. Not yet. You take the narrow stairs 2 decks up, toward the outer section of the ship where air moves differently. The corridor narrows, squeezes you gently between walls that curve ever so slightly, and then finally, you push open a door and step outside. The sky is a shade of grayish blue that feels like the deep end of a dream. The sea reflects it, shimmering slightly with waves that don't roar, just pulse. You lean on the railing. The metal is cold, of course. It always is. But this time you don't mind. You let the wind find your cheeks, let the salt bite a little at your lips, and take in the infinite nothing all around you. A man nearby is lighting a pipe. His hands shake slightly in the wind, but he manages it with the calm of someone who's done it too many times to fail now. He nods when your eyes meet, then turns his face back to the sea. No conversation, just company. Somewhere above, someone's whistling. The tune is slow, wandering, full of pauses and restarts like whoever's playing can't decide if they know it or not. It fits the evening. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling your feet adjust to the sway, your body slowly sinking with the ship's breath. Forward, always forward. When you open your eyes again, the sky is darker. The first faint star appears, blinking uncertainly like it's not sure it should be here. You take one more breath of cold air, one last look at the horizon that never changes, and turn to head back inside. Supper will be soon, and the line will start forming again. You return to the lower decks with the slow steps of someone who's not tired but ready. The door clicks softly behind you. The hum of the ship swells again in your ears. And in that moment, with the smell of tea still in your clothes and the taste of salt on your lips, you realize something. Even in this place, even with thin walls and hard bread, even in second shifts and second-hand blankets, something is holding you steady. A rhythm, a quiet dignity, the simple magic of being full, even when the menu stays the same. You don't check a clock because there isn't one. You don't ask what time it is, because time doesn't work the same way down here. It moves by instincts now, by hunger, by footsteps, by the way the ship breathes when evening settles into its bones. So when the corridor starts filling with the low thrum of movement again, When boots scrape against the floor and voices lower into that strange hush reserved for the hour before sleep, you know it's time for supper. Your body already knows. It's not hungry exactly, just ready, trained. You rise from your bunk, stretch your arms, and follow the rhythm you've come to understand. A silent migration toward one last meal before the day fully folds itself away. The dining saloon feels different at night. Not just darker, though it is, but softer somehow. The electric lights overhead still glow, but they seem gentler now, like they've dimmed their ambitions for the evening. The clatter of dishes has mellowed into a kind of background murmur. There's no rush now, no midday urgency. People move slowly, some even smile. The benches aren't full yet, but they will be. You find your spot, one near the wall this time, where the shadows pool just slightly and the air holds a trace of coolness that makes the food feel warmer by contrast. The steward doesn't speak as he sets the plate in front of you. He just nods once like he's delivering something sacred and simple. You look down. Supper. It's not dinner. Not really. It's not designed to impress or even satisfy completely. It's a quiet offering. Thin slices of something pretending to be ham, maybe. A pale cheese that doesn't quite melt but tries. More bread because of course. The ship could sink and you'd probably float on a raft made entirely of bread. You don't mind anymore. You nod at it like you would at an old neighbor. Not fond exactly, but familiar. You tear a piece of bread in half and stack the meat and cheese between it. No butter, no mustard, just honesty. You bite into it slowly, and the crunch gives way to something softer, something that tastes faintly of effort. Not love, not flavor, just effort, which is its own kind of care. The bread is slightly stale, but not hard enough to complain about. The meat is thin, but not invisible. The cheese is bland, but you chew it anyway. Around you, the room begins to fill with the quiet sounds of shared acceptance. People aren't talking much tonight. A few whispers. The occasional chuckle from a table near the door where someone's telling a story with wide hands and a grin too tired to fully reach their eyes. A child halfway down the row taps their spoon against the table in a rhythm that could almost be music. No one tells them to stop. The steward floats by again, this time with mugs. Tea, always tea. The one constant in this floating city of boiled intentions. Yours is strong as usual and dark enough to see your reflection if you squint. You sip it slowly, not because you love the taste, but because it makes you feel anchored. The warmth travels down your throat like a blanket that knows exactly where you hurt. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing in the quiet, and when you open them again, the world feels smaller and softer. The man across from you, someone you haven't spoken to, someone you probably won't, raises his mug slightly. Not a toast, just a nod. A way of saying, still here. You return it, wordlessly. The room continues to fill, but no one seems in a hurry. Supper is the kind of meal that lets people sit a little longer. Maybe it's because there's nowhere left to rush to. Maybe it's because there's comfort in the slowness. You watch the stewards work. Their movements are practiced, but not rushed. You wonder if they talk among themselves in the back, if they laugh at the same jokes, if they have their own rituals to survive the endless cycle of soup and schedules. You take another bite. The bread is softened now, or maybe you've just adapted to it. You chew, you swallow, you sip. It's a rhythm, your own private liturgy. You look around and notice how the room has transformed again. It's not a dining saloon anymore. It's something quieter, more personal. A room full of people all pretending they're not tired, not lonely, not scared. The lights hum, the spoons move. The steam drifts upward and disappears into the ceiling like it's taking secrets with it. Someone coughs. Another person laughs softly. The kind of laugh you make when you're remembering something that hurts a little less now. A young man near the back starts singing under his breath. It's not a song you know, and his voice isn't strong, but it carries, just enough to make others stop chewing for a moment and listen. It fades after a few lines unfinished. No one applauds, no one needs to. It was enough just to hear it. Your plate is nearly empty now. The tea is almost gone. You take one last sip, savoring the bitterness like it's earned its place. The steward comes by again, collects your dish with a silent efficiency that somehow feels polite. You nod again, your third or fourth of the night, because nodding is easier than speaking and sometimes just as meaningful. He disappears into the back again, already moving toward the next table. You don't get up right away. You sit a little longer, letting your body finish the work your mouth has already done. Around you, others do the same. There's no hurry, no pressure, just the slow unwinding of another day at sea. You glance at the faces nearby, the quiet ones, the tired ones, the ones still chewing. All of them strangers. All of them part of this strange, shared story. You'll probably never speak to most of them, but you'll remember them. Or at least the way they held their spoons. Eventually you stand. Stretch your legs. Crack your knuckles. You tuck your hands into your coat pockets and walk back into the corridor, where the air is cooler now and the ship's engines sound a little louder. The hallway feels longer, like it's grown since earlier, or maybe the day has just stretched you out. You make your way back toward your cabin, passing other passengers doing the same. No one talks. No one needs to. You all just move, quiet, steady, full. Back in your room, the lights are dimmed. The bunk creaks gently as you climb in. The blanket wraps around you like it knows exactly how you fold. You close your eyes, listening to the low hum of the ship, the distant clink of dishes still being cleaned, the soft shuffle of feet outside your door. Supper has settled in your stomach like a stone with good intentions. You are not full, but you are not hungry. You are not happy, but you are not sad. You are afloat, literally, emotionally, profoundly. And that somehow feels like enough. Sleep doesn't come easily tonight, though it's not for lack of trying. You lie in your bunk, one arm tucked behind your head, the other resting on your chest, listening to the ship creak like an old door with secrets. The walls hum softly with the effort of movement, a low vibration that never quite goes away. You feel it in your bones now, a pulse beneath your ribs, a gentle reminder that even when the world outside your cabin is quiet, the ship never really sleeps. It feeds, breathes, grinds forward. You're just part of it, one tiny piece of a machine made of wood and metal and human intention. Eventually, you rise. Not because you're wide awake, but because you've accepted that tonight's dreams will have to wait their turn. You slip your coat over your shoulders, careful not to wake the others in the room. A soft snore escapes from the bunk above. Someone mutters a few words in their sleep, not in a language you know, but it sounds like something worth remembering. You step into the corridor, greeted once more by the chilled breath of steel corridors and the soft flicker of electric lights that never fully brighten and never fully dim. You don't know where you're going exactly. You just walk, past the narrow doors of other cabins, past other sleepless souls wrapped in scarves and thoughts, past the crewmen who glance at you with the tired eyes of people who've forgotten what silence sounds like. The ship is alive in its own strange way. Every pipe seems to sigh with purpose. Every hatch has a rhythm. The walls are not just barriers, but participants, carrying vibrations and echoes from rooms you've never seen and voices you'll never meet. Eventually, you find yourself at a door you've passed before but never entered. It's not marked, not exactly forbidden, but the way it's placed, low and discreet, tells you it's not meant for passengers. Still, the handle is cool beneath your palm, and curiosity makes quiet companions bold. You open it slowly and step through into the belly of the ship. The heat hits you first. It's not stifling, just heavy, like walking into the breath of something massive. The air smells different here, not of sweat or steam or stew, but of metal and fire and flour. The corridor is tighter, the floor different beneath your boots, not meant for wandering feet like yours. And then you see it, the galley. It's bigger than you imagined, not grand, not elegant, just enormous. A kingdom of kettles and cauldrons, counters stained with honest labor, shelves lined with tins and jars and sacks of ingredients labeled in block letters that don't pretend to charm. A place of pure function, stripped of all pretense. There's no white linen here, no quiet violins playing in the background, just the clatter of ladles, the whisper of knives, and the steady roar of ovens doing their job like they were born for it. You stand in the doorway for a long moment, unseen. Then a woman, tall, sleeves rolled, hair tied back with a strip of cloth, notices you. She doesn't look surprised, just tired. She gestures with her chin, not unkindly, toward a bench near the wall. You sit, unsure if you've been invited or tolerated, but it doesn't seem to matter. She returns to stirring a pot the size of a bathtub, its contents thick and slow-moving like lava made of carrots and conviction. There are others here too, a dozen maybe, men and women alike, all moving with the kind of precision that comes from repetition. No shouting, no panic. Just the fluid, practiced ballet of people who know how many potatoes fit in a tray and how to slice meat with your eyes closed. They don't speak much. When they do, it's short. Practical. Enough to keep the rhythm alive. One man is ladling stew into metal containers row after row, his expression unreadable. Another kneads dough with arms that look like they've never known a day without flour. A young boy, apprentice maybe, or just someone too eager to sleep, peels vegetables with a speed that borders on magic. You watch him, fascinated. He doesn't look up, doesn't seem to mind your presence. This is just another night in the ship's endless feast. Because that's what this is, you realize. A feast that never stops. Not in the sense of banquets and chandeliers, but in the truest, most relentless meaning of the word. The ship eats. Constantly. Fuel. Water. Space. And it feeds its passengers in return. 3 meals a day, 700 mouths at a time. No glamour, no applause. Just the quiet miracle of boiling something edible from what's available and serving it with enough dignity that it still feels like care. The woman who first noticed you wipes her hands on her apron and walks over. She doesn't ask your name. She doesn't need to. She hands you a crust of bread. Warm, dense, a little uneven, and a small tin cup filled with something steaming and vaguely familiar. Broth, maybe. Or the kind of tea that forgot it was supposed to have flavor. You sip, and the heat grounds you. The bread cracks softly between your teeth, and for a moment you feel like you belong here. Not as a visitor, but as part of the machine. She doesn't say anything. Just nods once, then turns back to her station. The others don't pause either. The night's work continues. Dough is shaped. Knives are sharpened. Pots are stirred with wooden paddles that look like they were carved from tree trunks generations ago. There's a reverence to it. Not religious, but ritualistic. You can see it in the way they handle ingredients. Not wasteful, not rushed, just focused, precise. This food isn't gourmet, but it matters, because it's keeping the ship alive. You sit there longer than you meant to, letting the warmth seep into your clothes and your thoughts. There's a kind of peace here that you didn't expect. Not in the quiet, but in the purpose. These people aren't trying to be noticed. They're trying to feed a floating village. And they do it in silence, in heat, in motion that never quite stops. Eventually you stand. The woman nods again, her version of goodbye, maybe thanks, maybe just acknowledgement. You nod back. No words are exchanged. None are needed. You leave the galley slowly, stepping back into the cooler air of the corridor, the sound of clattering dishes fading behind you like the last notes of a lullaby. Back in your cabin, the others are still asleep. The world is still. You slip off your coat, crawl under the blanket, and close your eyes. The taste of warm broth still lingering on your tongue. The ship groans softly. The bunk rocks gently. And for the first time all day, you feel not just full, but grateful. You fall asleep to the rhythm of knives, fire, and bread being made somewhere deep below. And it's the best sleep you've had in days. The next morning finds you already half awake before your eyes open. The ship has a way of letting you know it's time. The gentle shift of the mattress under your spine, the steady murmur of someone brushing past the door outside, and the faint, unmistakable scent of boiling porridge sneaking in through the cracks in the wall. You roll onto your side, not quite ready to surrender to the day, but no longer resisting it either. The blanket is warm in places, cold in others. A patchwork of comfort that never fully covers everything but somehow still feels enough. You sit up slowly. The others in the room are stirring too, sleep peeling away from them in layers. No one says good morning, not because they're unfriendly, but because words feel too sharp for this hour. Everything is done in nods and small motions, a shirt being buttoned, boots being slid on, a sigh that speaks more than a sentence could. You do the same. You rub the sleep from your eyes, fold the blanket roughly at the foot of the bed, and stand. Your coat waits on the hook where you left it. You slip it on, then slip into the hallway. The corridor is a little brighter now. Or maybe your eyes are just better adjusted. You walk with the others, a slow-moving stream of half-conscious humanity, toward the dining saloon. It's strange how quickly things become routine. The creak of the same floorboard near the stairs, the chipped corner of the wall where someone probably brushed against it carrying too many bowls, even the sound of distant silverware, like wind chimes in a kitchen. Familiarity settles into you like a second skin. You begin to walk without thinking, following instinct rather than direction. The saloon smells of hot cereal and damp bread. Not unpleasant, not exciting, and just there. You slide into a spot at one of the longer tables, shoulders brushing the coat of the person beside you. She doesn't look at you, but she doesn't pull away either. That's the rule here. You share space like you share air, generously, without question. A steward appears like a ghost and places your bowl in front of you. Porridge again. Of course. It's thick today, clinging to the sides of the bowl like it's afraid of being eaten. You take the spoon, stir slowly, and begin. You've stopped asking what grain it's made of. You've stopped wondering if it ever changes. You've made peace with its blandness. Today it's thicker than yesterday, which might be good or might be a sign that someone in the galley overestimated how much water was needed. Either way, it goes down warm, heavy, filling. The bread beside it is rough and stubborn. You break off a piece and chew. It doesn't melt in your mouth. It resists. But you like that now. It gives you something to focus on. Across from you sits a man with a mustache so finely combed it looks like he styles it with a pocket knife. He's not young. Not old either. He eats like he's measuring the space between bites. Slow. Deliberate. You find yourself mirroring his pace, not out of imitation, but out of something quieter. Respect, maybe. You glance at him, wondering what he does when he's not eating, what he did before this voyage. He looks up briefly, meets your gaze, then nods once and returns to his spoon. That's all the conversation you'll have, and it's more than enough. Beside you, the woman shifts slightly, pulls her mug closer. Tea again. Always tea. You sip yours carefully. It's stronger than usual, almost bitter. You wonder if it's because the water boiled longer, or if the leaves were just reused one too many times. Still, it works. It warms. It wakes. You hold the mug in both hands and let the heat travel into your knuckles. The mug has a small dent on the rim, like it's seen things, like it knows something you don't. At the far end of the table, a small child begins humming, a simple tune, something repetitive, almost hypnotic. No one tells them to stop. The sound floats across the room like a ribbon, weaving through the clink of spoons, the rustle of sleeves, the low mumble of someone praying into their bowl. For a moment, the entire room feels lighter, softer. You finish your porridge without realizing. When your bowl is empty, you push it slightly forward, the universal sign that you're done. The steward returns, collects the dishes with the silent grace of someone who's done it hundreds of times. You nod. He nods back. No words, just understanding. That's how everything works down here. Not with speeches or declarations, but with glances, motions, rhythms. The language of those who live in close quarters and carry quiet hopes. Back in the corridor, you find yourself walking slower than usual. There's no rush today. You pass a few passengers sitting against the wall, talking softly in a language that curls like smoke. You don't understand the words, but you understand the cadence, the rise and fall of voices, the pauses, the laughter at something that only makes sense to them. It feels good to hear. You walk on. Later, you make your way up one of the narrower staircases, drawn by the soft promise of light. The deck outside is cold but not harsh. The sky is overcast. a blanket of soft gray that seems to rest gently on the sea. You breathe in the air. Not fresh exactly, but crisp. Real. It smells of salt, coal, and iron. You stand at the railing, watching the water stretch endlessly forward. No land, no birds, just movement. A man joins you, standing a few feet away. He's older, hat pulled low, scarf tucked so tightly into his coat you can barely see his chin. He doesn't speak, doesn't need to. He just looks out, same as you. Two strangers connected by nothing but the same view. It's enough. You stay like that for a while, the silence between you comfortable. Below deck, the ship continues to eat and breathe. The galley prepares the next round of meals. The stewards move like ghosts. The passengers shift between hunger and rest, hope and memory. You turn from the sea and head back inside, guided not by the clock, but by the faint scent of something being boiled for the third time today. As you descend the steps, you realize something strange. You haven't thought about where you're going. Not really. You've been thinking about the ship, the food, the sounds, the people, but not the destination. Not the port, waiting on the other side of the ocean. You wonder if others feel the same, if they've started to think of the ship not as transport, but as a kind of strange floating home. A place suspended in time, where you wake to porridge and sleep to silence. You reach the lower decks again. The lights flicker gently. The air hums with warmth. You pass by a steward who nods without looking directly at you. You nod back. You turn the corner and there it is. The saloon again, already preparing for the next meal. The same tables, the same benches, the same bread. But somehow it doesn't feel repetitive, it feels right. You step inside, not to eat, not yet, but just to sit. You slide into the same spot you had yesterday, run your hand along the wood of the table. It's smooth now, polished by years of elbows, plates, and the quiet patience of people who've sat where you're sitting now. You close your eyes for a moment and listen to the room breathe, and once again, you feel something not quite joy, but close. Something not quite comfort, but nearby. The ship rocks gently. The world waits, and you are exactly where you need to be. You're not sure how long you sit there before the next meal begins. It doesn't matter. Time aboard this ship is less a straight line and more a loop. Soft, repeating, folding in on itself like dough being kneaded by invisible hands. There are no loud announcements, no sharp bells or sudden lights. The only signs are quiet ones. The low scrape of boots in the corridor, the creak of benches as they fill one by one, and the faint smell of something cooking that somehow always smells exactly like yesterday, and nothing like home. You don't need to be told when it's time. You just know. The people around you know too. You shift on the bench, stretch your legs slightly under the table, and prepare yourself. Not for anything special, not for flavor or surprise, but for the comfort of familiarity, for the ritual, for another hour of warmth and routine, shared in silence with strangers who are somehow beginning to feel like threads in the same cloth. The steward arrives. You've seen this one before. Young, fast-moving, with sleeves pushed up past his elbows and a face that says he doesn't mind this job. Not really, but he's got better things planned for someday. He places a bowl in front of you, not with ceremony, but with care. A spoon rests beside it, already slightly bent as if it's been here longer than the ship. You pick it up. The enamel bowl is warm beneath your fingers, the scent rising from it exactly what you expect. Stew. But not quite the same. This version is darker, richer, maybe thicker. You lean closer, curious. There's meat or something like it, barely visible beneath the surface. Root vegetables float like survivors of a quiet storm. Carrot, maybe, or turnip that's seen better years. You dip your spoon, bring it to your mouth, and let the warmth bloom across your tongue. It's salty, a little smoky. It tastes like effort, like someone in the galley tried today. You don't say anything, but a small nod forms in your mind. A thank you you'll never get to deliver but feel anyway. You glance around as the rest of the table joins you in this slow, choreographed moment of collective silence. Everyone has their own rhythm. Some scoop quickly, shoveling with military precision, eyes focused only on the bowl. Others pause between bites, chewing thoughtfully, occasionally staring into the middle distance like they're seeing something just past the walls. There are small conversations, not full ones, just fragments. Pass the bread. Too hot? No, it's good. Enough to tether people to each other. The bread arrives late today. A large basket lands near the center of the table with a soft thud. Hands move toward it like dancers who've rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. You take a piece, thick and a little uneven at the edges, still warm in the middle. You tear it carefully, watching the steam escape like a secret. You dip the edge into your stew and let it soak. It falls apart just enough to soften, not enough to disappear. You eat, and it's good. Not because of taste, but because of balance. Because something inside you says, yes, this is what you needed. Someone beside you chuckles under their breath. You glance over. It's a boy, maybe 14, maybe younger, but with the kind of confidence that grows out of older siblings and a fast mouth. He's holding up a chunk of potato like it's a rare jewel, still firm, he whispers, and his neighbor, a man who hasn't spoken since sitting down, grins behind his spoon. You smile too, just a little. You keep eating. The mugs arrive midway through the meal. Tin again. Always tin. Always tea. It's darker this time, more astringent, and the steam curls in tight little spirals before vanishing into the air. You wrap both hands around it, feeling the metal burn softly against your palms. You don't drink right away. You let it sit, let it settle, let it become part of the moment. Across from you, a woman with streaks of gray in her hair finishes her stew and begins buttering her bread with the side of her spoon. There is no butter, not really. Just margarine pretending to be something more romantic. She spreads it carefully as if the act of making this little sandwich is holy. You respect that. You watch the way she handles the bread like it matters. Like it's the last good thing she'll eat for a while. You wonder what she left behind. You wonder what she's hoping to find ahead. The tea cools. You take your first sip. It's sharp, clean, grounding. It cuts through the salt left by the stew, resets your tongue like a palate cleanser for people who don't need luxury, just honesty. You sip again, slower this time. It's strange how a drink can feel so much like punctuation, a pause between one thought and the next. People begin to finish, not all at once but in waves. Bowls empty, bread baskets dry out, mugs clink softly as they're set aside. The steward returns, collecting plates with his quiet, practiced hands. He says nothing. No one expects him to. He moves like part of the ship, efficient, unnoticed, essential. You nod when he takes your bowl. He doesn't look up, but you think he feels it. You stay seated a little longer, just enough to let the warmth settle into your chest. Just enough to watch the room finish what it started. It's a full saloon now. Every table buzzing with quiet voices. Every bench bowed under the weight of the day. No one's in a hurry to leave, but no one lingers too long either. Space is shared. Time is borrowed. You all make room for each other, even without being asked. When you finally stand, your legs ache just a little from sitting so long. It's not unpleasant. Just a reminder that you're still in a body, still moving, still part of something real. You walk slowly through the corridor, not toward your cabin this time, but toward one of the smaller staircases leading up to a deck where you might catch the sunset if the clouds are feeling generous. You emerge into the open air and blink. The sky is still thick with gray, but the edges are tinged with a color you can't quite name. Not orange, not gold, something in between. The wind bites a little, but the tea still warming your core makes it feel bearable. You lean against the railing and look out at the sea. It stretches forever. No sign of land, just water and sky and this floating city of steam and soup and soft voices. Somewhere beneath your feet, more stew is being stirred. More bread is being sliced. More mugs are being lined up like soldiers ready to deliver calm. And you think strangely that if this voyage never ended, you might not mind. Not really, Because down here in this strange shared ritual of feeding and feeling and not quite speaking, something else is being fed too. Something quieter. Something deeper. Not hunger. Not thirst. But the part of you that needs to believe that even in the plainest places you can find care. That even in repetition there is meaning. That even with strangers you are not alone. And that is worth finishing your tea for. You don't remember falling asleep, only waking up again to that same low murmur of life moving just beyond your door. Not loud, not sudden, but steady. Like someone softly rewinding the same part of a song over and over. You blink into the dim light of your cabin, the corners filled with shadows that feel more like blankets than threats. The blanket around your shoulders is bunched at your waist. The fabric smells like wool and sleep and other people's dreams. Your mouth is dry, your legs stiff, and your body hums with the kind of tired that doesn't come from doing much, but from existing for a long time in a small space with a steady rhythm. The corridor outside is quieter than usual, almost respectful. The air carries a coolness you hadn't noticed before, or maybe it's just the way the ship breathes at this hour. Less like a worker and more like a mother exhaling. You stand, stretch, and pull your coat on like armor. Your hands move without thinking now, guided by routine more than intention. The boots slip on, the collar gets turned up. You run your fingers over the seams of your sleeve out of habit, not purpose, and step out into the corridor without a word. It's almost time for the final meal of the day. You don't know that officially. No one rings a bell. No one slides a notice under the door. You just feel it, in the way the air shifts, the way people move slower now, the way your stomach aches in a quieter, more patient tone. The saloon is half full when you arrive. You slide into a bench that still holds a little warmth from the person who sat there before you. Around you, the room is bathed in soft light. Not yellow anymore, but almost orange. Like the last hour of the sun got trapped inside the walls and hasn't found its way out yet. The steward is older tonight. A new face, or maybe someone you've seen but never noticed. He walks with a limp, slight and careful, but his hands are steady as ever. He places your plate down without looking at you, but gently, as though what he's serving matters more tonight than it did this morning. You look down and find slices of cold meat, cheese again, a piece of bread that's slightly darker than usual. Maybe rye, maybe just tired wheat. A smear of something pale beside it. Could be margarine. Could be a memory of butter. You don't care. It's food, and it's enough. You eat slower tonight. Not by decision, but by gravity. Each bite pulls a little more meaning from the moment. The bread cracks softly, the meat pulls away in thin ribbons, the cheese crumbles in your fingers like wet chalk. The flavors don't surprise you, but they comfort you. This is the kind of meal that doesn't pretend to be exciting. It just shows up, quietly, like someone knocking once and letting themselves in. The tea arrives midway through. It's slightly cooler than usual, or maybe it's just the mug that's been reused too many times today. You wrap your hands around it anyway. You sip, and the taste is exactly as you remember. A little bitter, a little smoky, like boiled resolve. You hold it in your mouth longer than you need to, not because of the flavor, but because it gives your body something to do while your thoughts settle into stillness. The saloon is full now, but no one is talking above a whisper. There's a weight in the air, not heavy but shared. Like everyone knows, this is one of the last times they'll sit like this, shoulder to shoulder with people whose names they'll never know, whose languages they'll never learn, whose journeys they'll never hear the end of. You glance down the table and find familiar faces. The boy who joked about the potatoes. The woman who spread margarine like it was gold. The man with the neat mustache who always ate in silence. All of them here. All of them quiet. You wonder what they're thinking. If they're counting the hours until the voyage ends, or if they've stopped counting altogether. If they're dreaming of land or just trying to hold on to the strange comfort of the ship. This long, creaking body of steel and steam and soup. You wonder if they'll remember this room as you do. Not for what was served, but for how it felt to eat among strangers without needing to explain anything. Someone coughs. Someone else laughs, softly. A steward drops a spoon and it clatters across the floor like it's trying to escape the moment. No one chases it. It rests there, forgotten, just another sound in the quiet music of the meal. You look down at your plate, almost empty. A few crumbs, a piece of cheese left behind, slightly melted from the warmth of your palm. You eat it anyway. You finish the last sip of tea, lukewarm now, still good. You place the mug on the table, not loudly, not softly, but with finality. You don't stand right away. You sit there, hands folded, back straight, eyes unfocused. You let the moment stretch, just a little. Around you, others do the same. No one is in a rush to leave. No one speaks about tomorrow. It's not denial. It's reverence. Because even when you're heading somewhere, even when the destination is all anyone talks about, sometimes it's the stopping points, the quiet benches, the warm plates, the silent meals that make the memory last. Eventually, you rise. Not all at once. Slowly, thoughtfully. Like the room itself has asked you to take your time. You nod at the person beside you. They nod back. No names. No need. The steward returns, limping, silent. He takes your plate. You meet his eyes for a second, just long enough to say thank you without a word. Then he moves on. You step into the corridor, and the air feels different now. Thinner, cooler, not cold, but touched by the kind of chill that speaks of ending things. You walk slowly, not because you're tired, but because your body has finally accepted the rhythm of the ship and doesn't want to disturb it. You make your way back to the cabin, boots quiet against the metal, coat brushing gently with every step. Inside it's dark, but warm. The others are already settling in. A soft murmur here, a laugh there. Someone sighs. Someone hums a tune you can't quite place. You remove your coat, fold it over the bunk rail, and sit. The mattress dips slightly beneath you. The ship hums. The lights above flicker once and hold steady. You lay back, fold your hands across your stomach, and let your eyelids close. And as you drift, it occurs to you not as a thought but as a truth, that you've grown used to this. Not just the food or the room or the tea, but the togetherness of it, the strange, soft ritual of surviving beside strangers, the dignity of being fed without fanfare, the knowledge that no matter who you were before here at the table, you were just another person trying to stay warm, stay fed, and stay human. You let that truth settle inside you like the final spoonful of stew, simple, heavy, and somehow beautiful. When you wake up, you don't open your eyes right away. You just lie there, still, letting your ears collect the sound of a ship that has finally, ever so slightly, changed its rhythm. It's subtle, the difference almost unnoticeable, but it's there. The creak of the metal is sharper, tighter. The hum of the floorboards beneath your bunk feels more focused. You take a deep breath, and the air, though still warm and laced with the usual scent of other people's breath and sea salt, now carries a whisper of something else. Arrival. Not today, perhaps. Maybe not even tomorrow. But soon. You sit up slowly, your joints protesting in familiar ways, your body accustomed to small discomforts wrapped in the routine of survival. You fold your blanket carefully, not out of necessity, but out of respect, for the space, for the experience, for the unspoken contract you've entered with everyone else aboard this floating machine of motion and memory. You pull on your coat, the fabric worn in just the right places now, molded to your shape like a second skin. Your boots thump softly on the floor as you stand, and you walk into the corridor without a word, letting your feet carry you through this steel hallway one last time. There's no rush, but there is movement. People are awake earlier today. There's a kind of quiet energy, a subtle charge in the way they whisper, in how they gather near stairwells, in the way their eyes flick toward one another more than usual. You feel it too. That strange blend of anticipation and hesitation, the knowledge that the routine is ending and with it something more delicate, the shared silence, the warm plates, the slow nods between people who never needed to exchange names to feel known. The dining saloon is already half full when you arrive. The light is different this morning. brighter, more direct. Like the sun is finally peeking in just enough to remind you that there's still a world outside the walls. The stewards move a little faster today, but not carelessly. The food arrives like always, quiet, steady, without flourish. You sit at your usual spot and the bowl is placed before you with the same practiced grace as always. Porridge again, of course. Steam curling from it like a final exhale. Bread sits on the side of the plate, a little softer today, as if even it knows this might be the last time it matters. You eat slowly, not because you're hungry. You're not really. But because this has become something more than food. It's an anchor, a final act in a ritual that's held your body and your mind together for days. You chew the bread without thinking. You sip the tea without rushing. The bitterness feels different now. Not unpleasant, just more real. The woman from before, the one who buttered her bread like it was art, sits across from you again. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. You nod at each other, and it's not just acknowledgement this time. It's gratitude. She reaches into her pocket and sets a wrapped piece of something, a sugar cube maybe, beside your mug. You don't say thank you. You just take it, place it gently into the tea, and watch it dissolve into sweetness that comes too late and exactly when needed. Around the room, others are doing the same. Eating like they're trying to remember how. Holding their mugs like the warmth inside will last longer than it really will. No one talks about what's next, not directly, but their eyes flick toward the walls like they can see through them. Like they know land is coming. Like they're already halfway off the ship in their minds, even as their bodies stay behind for one more meal. You finish the last bite of porridge and press the spoon flat across the bowl. It makes a soft clink that seems louder than it should be. You place the mug down gently. Then you sit back and breathe, your hands resting on your lap, your legs stretched slightly under the table, memorizing the shape of the moment, the way the light hits the spoon, the quiet scrape of someone standing behind you, the soft lull of conversation that never needs to rise above a whisper to mean everything. When the steward returns, you offer the bowl with both hands. He takes it with the same expression he's always had, calm, unreadable, respectful. You nod once more. So does he. The exchange, like every other on this voyage, is complete without speaking. You walk slowly down the corridor this time, not because you're tired, but because you're trying to see everything. The curve of the walls, the texture of the floor, the faint rattle of something always working behind the ceiling panels. You notice things you hadn't before. A small dent in the wall at knee height, a scrap of cloth caught under the bunkroom door, a child's drawing done in coal dust on the panel near the stairwell. You smile. You keep walking. Up on deck, the wind is softer today. The sea is calm, too calm almost. The sky above is no longer gray, but blue, bright, open. You grip the railing, fingers wrapping around the cold metal, and stare out at the horizon that finally seems like it's about to give you something new. Somewhere beyond that line is a future, not perfect, not certain, but there, waiting. You hear someone behind you murmur, "Almost there." You don't turn. You just nod, and maybe this is what you've really been sailing toward. Not the destination, not the port, not the promise of land, but this, the ability to feel full without being fed, the strength to share a bench with strangers and still feel safe. The quiet power of being part of something small and constant in a world that's always too big and too loud. You stay at the rail until your hands grow stiff. Then you return to your cabin, collect your things, fold the blanket one last time, and sit on the edge of the bunk, waiting. There is no announcement, no final speech. Just the ship doing what it does, moving forward. And as the engines hum beneath your feet, and the air shifts again with the scent of salt and city and sun, you realize this voyage has given you more than you expected. Not luxury, not comfort, but a kind of quiet truth. That dignity can exist without riches, that strangers can become neighbors without words, that even a hard crust of bread passed in silence can carry more kindness than 1,000 grand gestures. And if you're still here, listening, eyes heavy, heart soft, mind somewhere between sleep and thought, then I want to say thank you. Not just for being part of this story, but for bringing your quiet presence into it. You made it all the way to the end of this journey, and that's no small thing. If you felt comfort in the small moments, warmth in the quiet details, or peace in the shared breath of strangers at sea, then you've understood exactly what this story was meant to offer. So if you're not already part of this little harbor we're building here, this channel, this community, this space where bedtime isn't just about sleeping, but about feeling something, I'd love to invite you to subscribe. Not because you should, but because you want to be part of something gentle. And if you are already with us, welcome back, old friend. In the comments, I'd love to know where you're listening from, what time it is for you, and if any part of tonight's story reminded you of something in your own life, a meal shared, a stranger's kindness, a journey that changed you in ways you didn't expect. Stories like these mean more when they echo in other voices. So please, tell us you're part of the voyage. Until next time, sleep softly. May your dreams be calm, your pillow cool, and your heart a little fuller than when we started. Good night, traveler, you're home now.